All right. Well, thank you everyone again for joining us today. We are excited to bring you some information on understanding readiness to test. But before we get in there, I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. Here at NHA, we are fully invested in the success for all of our candidates. And we are here to help ensure that no matter what your background or needs, you feel confident and empowered to know your resources and hopefully sit for your certification exam when you're ready. We know that confidence is a major part of this and is a big hurdle for many learners. So today's goals are to ensure that you know how to use all of the tools as you prepare. So to help, you should know that NHA is the largest frontline health care worker certification company in the industry. We have over 1 million certified candidates, and we provide certifications and learning resources for your entire journey. So let's cover those certifications just a little bit. 5 of our 8 credentials fall more on the practitioner side of healthcare, including medical assistant, phlebotomist, pharmacy technician, EKG, and patient care. We also have 3 on that administrative side. That's going to include billing and coding, medical administrative assistant, and e-health records, which is a wonderful stackable credential for any of these professions. Now, in addition, we have some comprehensive learning tools that are available for purchase that focus on the learning objectives in these professions. But today, we're really going to focus in on the reporting and tools around those 8 certifications to help identify the best ways to prepare and feel confident on exam day. So I'm going to just check in with you guys a little bit. I'm going to actually post a poll. So you're going to see a poll open up here on your screen. Let's see. There we go. So we're just curious to see who's with us today. How does it describe, which one of these best describes how you're preparing to test? Are you doing this through a school or educational program? Is this on your own, independently? Is it through maybe an employer-based program? So there's a couple different options here. Read through them all and select the one that most closely aligns to you and your current situation. I'm just kind of curious. I want to see who is with us today. All right, got about half of you. Anybody else want to join in? Don't be shy. I love seeing this data come up in real time here. So it looks like we're trending towards the majority of people with us in some kind of an academic or educational program, typically through post-secondary, but not everybody. So that's wonderful. I'm going to go ahead and close that down there. And I'm going to ask one more. I'm going to launch of those 8 certifications that I just mentioned, and there is a little scroll on the right-hand side of this if you don't see yours. What are you preparing for, right? Which is the test that you're coming up on or that you're looking to test through? So take a minute, again, scroll down if you need to see those at the bottom of the list. Just curious to see who's with us today. Excellent. All right, wonderful. We got almost everybody who joined in. So it looks like right now today with us, we have a lot of medical assistants, phlebotomy technicians, some administrative assistants. Almost every single profession is accounted for here today. So that's fantastic. Excited to have you. Well, let's talk a little bit about the learning journey, right? Preparing for your exam is a journey. And wherever you are in the process, we're going to look at some of the key things that you can do to know that you're ready to become NHA certified. All right, now I'm going to ask, I know I got a lot of questions. I want to get to know you guys so well, but there's one more question that I want to ask for. Here we go. What are you most hoping to walk away with today, right? What do you want this webinar to, if it covers nothing else, that you feel like you've learned? And there's lots of them to read here. So take a quick look, read through them. This is a live presentation. So if there's something here that everybody absolutely needs to know, I can adjust and we can just make sure that we cover it. These are common questions that we get from our candidates who are preparing. So just take a quick minute. We've got about half of you here, which is great. If what you need to know isn't on this list, post it in the chat. Let us know, right? Go to that chat and say, hey, So I desperately need to understand this part of this thing. We'll make sure that we can incorporate it. So I'm going to go ahead and close this down. Thank you guys so much. It looks like, again, the biggest tips to prepare, which we're absolutely going to cover. So thanks for posting. I'm going to give you our agenda for today. So one of the biggest questions we get is, how do I know I'm ready to take my exam? And so today we're going to try and uncover that answer. So here at NHA, the National Health Career Association, we can see how candidates across the country are preparing to test and how different resources can make a huge difference. So we're going to attempt to cover all of these topics today. So to get started with one of the biggest questions that we get, we need to really understand what our resources are and what certification even means. So understanding that in comparison to a common confusion of a certificate of completion. So what those do is they show that you've completed training, usually through an educational program. For example, earning a high school diploma is a certificate of completion. You finished something. But earning a certification, this is different. It's obtained through a national certification agency, usually, by taking and passing an exam. So they're not quite the same. You think about the difference between going to medical school and becoming a doctor. You don't become a doctor when you graduate medical school. You have to prepare for and take an exam or several to earn your license. So when looking to get your certification, it's always important to take note if it's an accredited one. But what does that even mean? Well, having an accredited certification like those with NHA means that what you're being tested on has been evaluated at an industry level. We're not just testing you on what we think you should know, but what the industry has said you need to know. Now, not all certifications in the industry are accredited, so making sure yours is can make a huge difference for employers. The NHA exams are accredited through these different accrediting bodies. I can go on and on about all the things that they mean, but we are also recognized by the largest program accreditations. So all that is to say is that we've done our due diligence and our hard work, and you can feel confident in your decision to partner with us and earn your industry certification. As you continue in your journey, always do your research. A quick browse on any certification organization's website, like we see here with NHA, should easily bring up that status. So do this research beforehand to make sure that what you're earning actually stands for something in the industry. All right, so we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit now about the test plan itself. So understanding what a certification is and the test itself aren't always the same. So to help, the test plan is where we start. This is the blueprint, the outline of the exam. This is how you can see what we're going to cover, the topics, the concepts you'll be tested on, and even the amount of questions in each area. So knowing how this works and what you'll be tested on is a big part of that preparation. So all of our test plans are available on our website for free. They're also included in any of our study materials that you might purchase. So just locate the certification that you're studying for and then scroll to the bottom of that screen and you'll be able to download that test plan for free. But how does it actually work? How will you be scored on that exam? So we start again with the test plan outline. So everybody who tests with that exam type will follow this exact same blueprint. There are scored items that outline a series of skills, knowledge, and tasks that we'll assess. But there will be questions on the exam that we don't score. Those are labeled on the test plan as pre-test. Those aren't the first questions that you get, but questions that we use before they become test questions. So a little bit confusing there. But you need to focus on the scored questions and know that there will be questions we don't score, but you need to answer all questions to the best of your ability. Non-answered questions will count as a negative, right? So we don't want that. Now, everyone who takes this test follows this plan, but not everyone has the exact same questions. There are several versions of every test out there. So to score everyone fairly, across a range of possible questions, Every question has been evaluated, has been reviewed through a series of levels. So these include how hard is that question, how often in your job you'll be asked to do this thing, or even how important is it that you get it right the first time, right? These are just some of the layers that are used to set the score. So no matter what, the maximum score you can get on any of our exams is a 500. So that means 500 is a perfect score. Every test has that potential of you earning 500 points. Now, remember, every question has been weighted. So depending on the questions that you get to 500, you need to make at least a 390 or higher. So even if you miss by 1 point, let's say you got a 389, for example, that doesn't necessarily mean you missed one question, but that you didn't quite make the minimum required score after all your questions were reviewed. This is not a typical A, B, C style grade. That's not how this works. It's not just about how many questions you got right, though a lot of right questions is better than not, but it's about what those questions were, how they're weighted, and making sure you have enough to show a mastery in those topics. Okay. So now that you kind of have an idea of what to prepare for and how you'll be scored, let's talk about doing the work. We're here to help with that too. Depending on the program, if you're in an academic program or your learning journey or your employer, you may have purchased or been provided specific NHA exam materials. These are based on the test plan I was just mentioning. The full package will include an online study guide, a series of practice tests, personalized reporting, and a special additional tool called the focused review. We're going to talk about all these just a little bit. So as we look this over, you may want to know that we did recently do a survey of over 6,000 certification holders. And on average, they said they wished they had studied with NHA's materials earlier and more frequently than they did before they tested. In addition, those who used these well were more likely to earn their certification in their first attempt. All right, so I'm going to ask a quick poll here. Let's see if I can find that. There it is. So talking about the exam study materials, do you have them, right? There's a couple different answers here. Yes, I already do. Not yet, but I'm going to be getting them. I'm not sure if they're provided, but I'm going to find out. My program doesn't provide them, but I've bought them myself. I didn't know that there were study materials available. Or if some other option, please post that in the chat. Let us know. We're just going to kind of capture, see who's with us today. And we're going to talk a little bit about these. So I just want to make sure we can chat through what's going on here. All right. Great. Got almost everyone. I'm going to wrap this up unless you want to put your hat in the ring. Wonderful. So the majority of people here already have the study materials, at least for those of you who answered, but not everybody. So we are going to talk a little bit about them. So once you have your NHA login, you can access these materials. Many programs or employers do provide these directly to their candidates, but not all. So whether you choose to purchase these for yourself or if you have them or are getting them, you will access them either through My Courses, that's if you're getting them through an institution, or if you've purchased them on your own, My Study Materials links. So check with your institution if you're not sure. They might be giving it to you. It kind of just depends on the institution. Now, we want to talk about using these well, following best practices. So typically we suggest that you start with the study guide. So this is going to be the same for most, but if you happen to have a baseline practice test, in those situations, we'd actually recommend you begin with this. But if you're studying through an academic program, just be sure that you're following their guidelines, right? Just follow their steps. So let's talk about the study guide. There's a lot of amazing features. It may look different depending on the materials you have, but they all have similar functions, and we're going to walk through them a little bit. It's always going to be broken into categories or sections, each one aligned to a core content area from that exam. Now, this isn't enough all on its own. It's not a complete program. This is a review towards the exam. So make sure that you're using other material or your work experience. We're going to show you how we talk to this material and give you guidance on how we're going to test you on it. So within this space, you have access to activities or games. There may be quizzes, checkpoints, little mini assessment tools. There will also always be glossaries of key terms, flashcards, professionalism videos, among other things. It might look a little bit different. Our newer material has a slightly different format, for example. And to access that menu of those different chapters, you click on the menu icon, and then we'll see all of those same things: glossaries, video libraries, flashcards, etc. Now, once you have access to this, for those exam study materials, they should all have flashcards. We actually have a separate flashcard app. It's only for flashcards, but once you have access, you can download this for free, and you will be able to access your existing flashcards in a more of a gamification way and help you a little bit with some of that studying. This is easily downloaded for Android or Apple, and there are how-tos on our website that walk you through how to download it, just depending on the device that you have. So once you've worked through a module, then you should take the quiz tied to that chapter to see how much you remember. These are designed to look and feel as close to the online exam as possible, and are focused on just this one core competency, so you can see how ready you are to move on. And we're not just going to tell you if you got it right or wrong, but we will also give you the reasons behind it. Why is each choice right or wrong? And for every question in the quiz, because you get the answers, we don't really recommend you take it over and over again. Memorizing this is not studying. This is used to assess your readiness to move forward. So if you don't get a score that you like, go back and study some more, right? That's kind of the idea. Now, once you've gone all the way through your study guide, it's time to test your exam readiness. And that starts with a practice test. If you've already completed a baseline, no worries. It's the next available practice test. So these are designed, again, to look as much like the exam itself as possible. No matter what, you will have a total of 6 practice test attempts. Now, just because you get a bunch of tries doesn't mean you should take them all right away and, again, try to memorize these. That's not what they're for. They're designed to help you prepare and study. Each attempt is the full exam blueprint, but do not expect that these exact questions will be on the test, right? They're designed to follow the test plan outline for all scored questions and give you feedback, reporting, help you study further. Your program may turn on or off instant feedback rationales like we saw with the quizzes, but if you have a baseline or a final test in your packet, in your program, those won't have any rationale, so they'll give you that real exam experience. We actually really recommend that you have at least 2 practice test attempts and as close to a real exam experience as you can create. But keep in mind that these are going to test you differently or score you differently than the actual exam. They're just going to tell you how much you got right or wrong. These are not scaled like we were just talking about. These are just, how did you do, right? So it's not an A, B, C style grade. We're just going to show you how well you did in each area. So though you get a total of 6, we really see that those who use at least the first 4 have a higher possibility of passing their exam. So just some options. Now, ultimately, always follow your program's guidelines. These are our best practices. So it just depends on your program. Now, once you've completed a practice test, you'll get this score report, so you can see how you did in each core area. We're not going to tell you what question you missed, but what competencies to work on. We want you to go back and study further. Again, it's not even as important what score you got, but that you saw improvement from one to the next. And that's where here you can launch your review. So the focused review helps you study just those concepts that you missed questions on from that one practice test attempt. It's a different study tool specific to each practice test, and it helps to kind of focus in on just those areas that you need. This is something that is filterable. It is also printable. You can go back and highlight areas if you print it out, or just spend time on competencies you want to work on. It's not interactive like your study guide is, but you also don't have to go dig around in the study guide to find the things you need. They're all going to be right here. Okay, So the next phase of this is looking at the real key to your success, and that's understanding to see what you've done, how you're doing, and what you should probably do next. So for our discussion today, we're going to have a pretend learner. This is Davian Foster. She is our learner. We're just going to go through and look at this from her perspective. The moment you start in on your study materials, NHA begins to monitor your progress, and you can see this in your module through the time spent log. So right up at the top right-hand corner. This is a time clock that will reset for every login. So each time you log back into a module, it will start at 0, but we do calculate your full timestamp, but that's going to be in a different report. So to view your reporting for your study guide, you can see your lessons here. You can expand each card and see more information, several things, including your time in study, your most recent access date. And once you've met your institution's expectations on the module quiz, you can see there are different expectations here. Then you might mark as completed. But this isn't going to log every piece of your materials. In order to really see what you're doing, you want to go to your progress report. Okay. Your practice tests work exactly the same way. You can expand any assessment and see an overview of completion, including your score and accuracy, your time that we would suggest that you spend in your focused review, and an outline of each topic that you missed at least one question on. So from here, again, selecting your progress report will provide you all the details that you need to see. So this brings you to an overview of all of your access to any materials in your course. It will show you your week at a glance, your news feed, so to speak, what you've done for how long, your study guide overall usage, as well as trends in your studying over the last few weeks. Any practice test information, as well as outlines of your assessments, your performance in any assessment that you've completed. And then scrolling down, you can view your individual modules, assessments, and our suggested review in more detail. Reviewing your modules, you can see the details for quizzes as well as session history. So you can see how many logins you've had, as well as your quiz scores. Now, to see more information on your practice tests, we're going to go to assessments. And here you can see how did you do, right? With information on your overall score, suggested and completed time in the focused review, and you'll also be provided how much time you spent on each question. Now, this is a major helpful tool here, a part of exam success. Truly taking the time to read each question all the way, as well as all of the answers before picking yours, working through each one to find which is the most correct answer. So the pace of your exam is important as it is a timed exam. You don't want to spend too long on any given question, but sometimes spending too little could potentially be even worse. Now from here, you can also open your focused review if you like. Now, from suggested review, we're going to give you the content per core area. It will be alphabetized per test. So right now, we are looking at the administrative assisting from the current MA practice tests. And you can see we'll be at 8%, right, of the exam weight is this one competency. Administrative assisting is 8% of that total exam. Now from there, you can choose topic areas or even just view those where your score fell at or below a certain percentage of accuracy. But remember, this is different. A 70% on this exam doesn't necessarily mean a C grade. That's not what this means. It just means you got it correct 70% of the time. But average passing or expected score might be 65. So don't let that number creep you out, right? It's not just about the score that you got, but seeing your scores improve from one step to the next. That's the most important thing, is looking at that growth in your own self. Again, there is no perfect score. We'd want to see growth from one assessment to the next. It is your time in study, both before your practice tests and in between, that really makes all the difference. Okay, I'm going to ask another quick question here. Let me launch that. So talking about these materials, how many of you have already taken an NHA practice test? Just curious. We've got yes, at least one, not yet, multiple, other. I see some people posting in chat. Yes, I have. Just curious, right? Because this might be new information for some folks. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close this down. Anybody else want to add in? So it looks like the majority of people here have not yet taken a practice test, and that's okay. Remember to use it to guide you and study further. The time and study and your personal growth are what we're monitoring, what you really want to focus on. Keep in mind that you are unique and working to prepare for your test, either on your own or through a program. The practice test reporting will show you, as I said, a percentage of scores, total correct out of total questions. This is to help you work through areas you may be struggling in, haven't yet mastered. Use them to define what you need to do next, not define if you're ready to test. Because NHA certification exam scores are designed to compare you across the entire country. So your test and practice tests aren't showing you the same information. We're looking at your readiness to move into your new job, your new career. And using those scaled scores we talked about in the beginning help to define your ability to step into the field. Again, that's why we don't recommend you focus on your practice test score, focus on your growth and improving that score as much as you can as you review and study. All this studying and hard work takes time. Knowing what to do, when to do it is an important piece of making sure your exam day is successful. I mean, surprises are great when it's your birthday, but not when you're sitting for an exam. So test anxiety is real. We know that. I personally struggle from it. There are a few key things that you can do to help. So now that you've done all this studying and preparation, much of your worry should be lifted because you're feeling confident about yourself. But let's take a look at our overall timeline. We're going to begin by obtaining the NHA materials as soon as you can through your program. Many institutions give this through part of tuition, but not all. In addition, you want to make sure you work with them on how you access those materials. Many may use their platform to provide it to you and not ours. So you want to make sure that you check in with them first before going on our website and creating an account or doing anything like that. Okay, so always check in with your program first. Now, once you have those materials, you might be given a baseline assessment, but either way, we recommend that around that time is when you start going through your study guide and quizzes, using this material strategically with, of course, your program, if you're in one, to bridge that gap between what you know, what you've learned, and how we're going to test you. Now, when you're ready, take that first practice test in as close to a real exam environment as you can. So if you need to, time yourself. Have your institution turn off the exam rationale so it will look and feel like a real test. Then the focused review, which is that new study tool, comes along with each practice test and your personalized reports. Use those to help you focus your studying in between each attempt. So this makes sure you have the time that you need to continue to work on those areas that you haven't yet mastered before you test again. When we're talking about studying, some of this planning ahead means preparing over a period of time, not just the week before. Real learning takes dedication, and it helps to establish study goals and sticking to them. So if you need someone to hold you accountable, find a buddy, right? Set certain times each day that you take a little bite out of your study. No one expects you to do this overnight. So as I mentioned, again, an accountability buddy or a study group or a partner. You remember things differently when you work through it together, and it really can help. Group study helps to teach concepts you're comfortable with to others and vice versa. It gives you different ways of looking at concepts, and also it helps it to stick by having that shared experience. So if you can, have a friend or a buddy or an educational partner help you with this prep. If you don't have anyone, let NHA be your partner. And once you have access to those study materials, download our mobile app where you can use those flashcards and we can make it a little bit more fun. Another piece of this is applying for your exam as early as possible, right? That's the best idea. There are usually program requirements for you to meet, but the last thing you want to miss is an application deadline. So be sure you apply for that test as soon as you're able, at least 2 weeks before the exam date. For those who are testing on site, at your institution, exam registration availability closes the week before the test. So you definitely want to get that done. If you're testing through PSI or a remote proctored exam or off-site testing, your applications will require that you test within a 6-month window. It will expire if you don't. So there is a limit to how early you should apply. Assemble everything that you need the night before your exam. Your ID, your pencil, a watch, set your alarm to be sure you arrive early. You will feel better knowing you're ready to go. Don't cram the day before an exam. Last-minute studying actually increases test anxiety, which does not help with your ability to take the test. And I know this can sound silly, but getting a good night's sleep and even eating a healthy meal can really help with your body to feel prepared. So does staying positive and making sure the things you're saying to yourself are kind. Scientifically, they have proven that you actually remember bad things about yourself easier than good things. Isn't that great? So fill your mind with the thought that you can do this and it will help. So planning ahead also includes being sure that you know your NHA login and password. And don't forget your ID. In the days before your exam, be sure to check that you know these, that you have them. You won't be on the same computer you've been studying with probably, so it won't have your saved logins. We don't want you to be stuck in a testing center, unable to take your exam because you can't log in. So no matter how or where you're testing, be early. Testing at your institution will mean that you should show up early anyway, still, and be prepared. Know the room you're testing in, when the exam is supposed to start. If you're testing through PSI at a testing center, look it up, know where you're going in advance. Allow for extra time for traffic, parking, and even walking into the building. If you're testing remotely through PSI, ensure that your computer is compatible and that you have an adequate test space to test in. We have walkthroughs on what these mean and how to do it all on our website. No matter what testing method you are, we've got resources to help. Now, during the exam itself, don't get discouraged if you don't know an answer, but don't skip it. There will be a few questions that NHA doesn't score, and you're not going to know which ones those are. So if you're unsure, rule out the wrong answers first. Use your knowledge, your critical thinking to choose the best answer to the best of your ability. If you need to, you can bookmark it to review at the end if there's time. It is a timed exam, so it's important to get all the way through, and bookmarked questions are not submitted. So you need to make sure they're all submitted before you finalize your exam. You want to read each question thoroughly. Look out for those that say, which of these is not, for example, or any of those all of the above answer choices. If you can clearly eliminate one answer choice, then you know that the all of the above is also wrong to help you focus in on what the right answer should be. Now, there is always one correct answer. Sometimes it can look like there's more than one. So you want to read all of the answers before picking yours because there is only one most correct answer. Had this question, what happens after I'm certified, good or bad? I don't know about you, but I'm always wondering what those steps are. So let's go through what that looks like. Okay, so you earn your certification. You can print it right from your NHA login or request one complimentary printed copy. You know, the one on fancy paper with the logo, but once you've earned your certification, go online and tell us about it. Let us celebrate with you. We really do read these. We love hearing from you. So we do recommend also that you create a LinkedIn profile, get it out there so that it's clear because employers will Google you. You want to make sure they see that you're certified. You can also put the initials of your certification in an email signature. Absolutely put it on your resume. Make it clear you're certified. Did you know that NHA has a job board on our website, which you can search and look for open jobs right there? Because we do. So use that. And don't forget to bookmark our website so you can come back and look at our blog posts if you want any of those extra pieces. Okay, so what happens if you don't pass in your first attempt, right? This is a question. It's important that we answer. So this is a little visual aid to talk about how exam attempts work. So from your eligibility to test, you can then apply for and schedule your first attempt, right? That's what we've been talking about. Now, if you don't make the minimum score to pass, you can apply for another attempt, but you can't take it for at least 30 days. This is to give you time to review and prepare further. Now, this is for the same exam type. So it's different if you're testing multiple exam types. This is only if you're testing MA, not if you're testing MA and phlebotomy, for example. Okay, well, what happens if I don't pass a second attempt and now I have to have a third exam, if you choose to? Well, it's another minimum 30-day wait period. For all of these attempts, you will need to apply for that exam again. And each new attempt is just like the first. And unless you're in a program or with an employer that will pay for a retake, that may mean a new exam fee each time. This is why we talk so much about good study habits, why it's so important. Okay, well, we're not done yet. Okay, what if that third attempt is not a good one also? Well, this is when things change just a little bit. From that point, there is a required wait for a full year before you can try that same exam again. And from there, it's another year for every additional attempt, as long as you're eligible to test. Now, we don't want this to happen. This is not our goal. We don't want you to keep taking and paying for unsuccessful tests. We want you instead to take the time you need to really prepare, using every tool available to you in the process. So if your first attempt isn't successful, then we can work on doing everything possible to make it better in the second attempt, and it is absolutely possible. Okay, we see this all the time. We know that not everyone who doesn't pass is going to take it again. We know that's not possible, but statistically, those who choose to retest and then who use the study materials and follow the best practices we've been discussing have a much higher possibility of passing that exam in their second attempt and earning their certification. It is absolutely possible. We also know that those who use those materials before their first attempt have an even higher likelihood of passing that exam without ever needing a retake. So that's why we're focused so much on time and study and personal growth. Here's one example of just one of our candidate testimonials. And we really do love hearing from you. And it's no joke that working in healthcare is hard, but incredibly rewarding. And we're just from me to you, we're so proud of all of you for taking this first step on this road. It is a life-changing event, and not just your life, but the lives of those around you. They see you. They see the hard work you're putting into this, and it does make a difference. We have lots of inspiring testimonials out on our YouTube channel. I can't wait to see yours once you've earned your certification. So we are going to get to some Q&A, but before we do, we want to take a moment to post the survey link in the chat box. And I'm going to, you should be able to push that out to everybody. So remember, this is a survey about what you learned today. We're going to get to some open Q&A. We've got plenty of time to answer additional questions. But if you fill this out, you will be put into a raffle for a $50 gift card. So, you know, if you're the only one who fills it out, guess what, right? So let's get that filled out, and that's going to be posted in the chat. Also, we have been recording. Anyone who registered for today will get an email in the next week with the webinar recording in it. And we will also post the webinar on demand out on our website. So just so you know, that's coming. All right, so there we go. The survey is in. So just click on that right now and open it up, right? Fill it out. But I'd love to know what questions. I know we've had some activity in the chat. I'd love to know what questions we have.
Hi, Laura, this is Mary. There is a question in here. Am I able to flag questions on the actual NHA exam to go back and answer it? And am I able to go back to look at ones that I've already answered that I didn't flag?
Great question. Yes, our practice tests will follow the same pattern. So if you do have the NHA practice test, you'll be able to see exactly what that looks and feels like. But as you go through, you can flag. A flagged question is not a submitted question. You can submit your exam with flagged questions, but you don't want to because it won't be scored. So there absolutely is a way to go back. It kind of depends on where you're testing, but you want to make sure that you use the appropriate setting to go back and look. And yes, you can see your other questions too. However, when we're talking about test taking strategies, it is usually best not to second guess yourself. Take your time answering the question as you go, right? So that you can answer correctly, because often when you go back and change your answer, you usually change it to the wrong one. Now, that's not all the time, right? But it is more common. So, there are different rules of thought there, but absolutely you can see your flagged questions. You can go back and change them. You'll want to submit any flagged questions before finalizing your test. Great question.
Okay, and then there was another one in chat regarding math calculations, and if a calculator is needed, how is that provided?
Great question. A lot of that will depend on the exam that you're taking, but you are not allowed to bring a calculator to the exam. Any calculations you may need will be handled within the exam itself. If you're really worried about calculations and dosaging and medical math, NHA actually has a learning resource you could purchase. It's not geared towards the exam itself, but it will help with medical math and dosaging and calculations. And it's called Pharmaceer Math. And let me just show you. You can learn more about it. I'm out on our general website here. And if you go to this Educate and Train, you can go to this Pharmaceer Math button and just learn a little bit about it, kind of what it does, what it covers. It's not just for pharmacy technicians. It may apply to other roles as well. It's geared a little bit towards that pharmacy space, but it's pharmaceutical calculations, right? Medical math. So if you're really, really nervous about it, we do have some stuff to help you there, but typically there's not a lot of math that will happen on most of the exams, and any math that does happen is going to be handled within the test. So hopefully that answers your question.
And I don't have any further questions available right now unless somebody wants to post one. We're ready to answer it for you.
I know there were some questions that came into chat. Was anybody monitoring chat have one that they want to highlight or bring up?
The calculator one Mary has already asked. That was one that was in chat for us.
Great. All right. Well, can someone ask about scoring again? Okay. So we want to talk about the exam score again, is what I'm hearing. So let's go back to that portion. It was right at the beginning. So if you missed that, totally understandable. Let me open that up. Where was that stuff? So the exam starts with the test plan, right? That's really the first part. So take a look at our test plan. You can download it for free. And what we're seeing here on the test plan is you'll see the number of scored items. That's what everything is based on. And how many pre-test items there'll be on the exam. Usually it's like 10 or 20. You'll see how long the exam is allowed for. And then you'll also see each core competency and a breakdown of how many questions there are in each area. So this is important because everyone who tests is going to have this test plan based off of their certification type. So we can even do this in real time. And let's go take a look at the NHA exams. So I'm going to go back out on our website. Let's just load the MA because it's the first one on the list. It's a really important question, so I'm very glad that you asked. Now, I'm going to just scroll to the bottom of this page. It's going to talk all about becoming a medical assistant. And now I'm going to download the plan for free. And here it's going to take me to the exam test plan. So it's going to talk about there's 150 scored items. That's the important number. 30 non-scored items. So there's 180 questions on this exam. Then you'll see here how many questions there will be in each exam. The questions are not going to be in the same order. That's a great question I just saw in. They're going to be shuffled every time, every person. So they're never going to be in the same order. And the point that we're getting to here is that though everyone's going to follow this plan, my 15 questions in foundational knowledge and basic science and your 15 questions may not be the same. This is why we use a scaled scoring, because what if I got 15 easy questions in foundational knowledge and you got 15 hard ones, but then I got 8 hard ones in A&P and you got 8 easy ones? And that doesn't work like that. That is a complete example, but it does, that's not exactly how that goes, but let's just say it does. So from there, is it fair if a 70% is a passing grade? No, because we got different hard questions. What we're being evaluated on isn't the same. So instead, we use a scaled score. And what that means is that every question has been evaluated and given a weight, given a number, right? Different amounts. And so every test is designed to use a full test plan and have a 500 as a perfect score. So 500 is your maximum score. So that's how they shuffle it around. So every test is going to be a total of 500 to be perfect, which we don't expect. So that's where we then, the weighting of that, the value of that is based off how hard is that question, all these other things that we build to do it. So a passing score, minimum that you're aiming for to pass, is a 390 out of that 500, but that doesn't mean it's an 80% because it's about what those question weights are and how they work. So that's why when we're doing your practice tests, we don't want you to focus on the practice test score itself, but on growing from one test to the next. It is very possible to get a low score on a practice test and still pass the exam. It just depends on the exam that you got and how the questions were worded and if they made sense to you and all those different pieces. So I hope that answered that question in there. And I do see there are a couple of hands up. If you can either post in the chat or in the Q&A what those questions are, that would be great.
Laura, there was another question that came in, is that their last day of their class is this month on the 7th. And when should they schedule their exam?
Well, check with your institution because it's probably somewhere in plan, right? So, check in with them. If they don't have something like that set up for you or planned for you, then you should schedule your exam for when you feel ready, right? If you don't feel ready yet, and it's not something that they're being told when to do, and if you don't have these prep materials, get them. Take that time first to prepare and then take your exam. But many programs have a requirement, have a timeline, or within so many days, or even before the end of the test. So if you haven't applied yet and you're coming up in 5 days, right, or 4 days for your course to be over, I would check in with them and make sure that you're not missing anything. I hope that answers that question.
I am not seeing any new questions being posted.
All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and I want to say thank you one more time to everybody who's here. I am going to stop the recording, but we do have some time and we can hang out a little bit off of the recording and answer any questions as you think of them. So thank you everybody for being here. Good luck on your exam. Think positive, study hard, and know that we're here to help.